Okay, I'm Anthony Monteith. This is Cup of Chi, episode 30. We're coming to the end of season one. So we thought we'd end this season with a good one, with one that I've been waiting for at least a year, is Gary Rutter. Gary Rutter is based in the Netherlands, originally from Northumbria in the UK, and he is a senior instructor of Shou Gong, which is the art of longevity, a style of Neigong developed in Malaysia. So, Gary, thank you so much for coming on Cup of Chi. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. I know you were recently in Ireland and we had a great fun. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, how you started on this journey, where it all began, and what you're up to, what your latest projects are right now?
Well, thanks for letting us come on. It's good to see you again. Right, so yeah, I started off in northeast England, and I came across Shou Gong be about 2016-ish, I think. I don't have the standard martial arts background. I was a professional sheep shearer for 25 years. Still do a little bit. And it was a very physical job, hard on the back. And I wanted to get into some martial arts, but because I was always traveling, I couldn't really commit to any long-term practices. And I've lived in Holland now for, I think, 11 years. And yeah, started training with Lynn Naudson in 2016. And yeah, the more I got into Shou Gong, the more I started to realize that there's I haven't been very kind to myself over the years, to put it that way.
Yeah, I get that.
So yeah, with the sheep shearing, yeah, it's a very different kind of a job, but there's a lot of carryover between that and the martial arts, which I was surprised about, which gave me quite a big advantage when it came to learning. Maybe just give some context about the shearing, because then that might help piece things together.
Yeah.
So I was a sheep shearer at a high level, back and forth from New Zealand, Australia, and the physical output in that job at the level I was working was the equivalent to doing a day at the Tour de France or running a marathon. The energy output equates to be about the same. And I was doing that 7 days a week.
Wow. So 1,000 calories a day.
Yeah, I was between 10 and 12,000 on average. But I wasn't really putting a lot of fuel back in.
Right.
Gravity is a thing. So it's actually quite difficult to eat any hearty food when you're doing it, because my head is below my belly. Right, I'm bent over, effectively touching my toes for 8 to 10 hours a day. So yeah, the getting food in was a challenge, but I kept on going because I started to learn a little bit about energy. I don't want to go too off onto that tangent, but to be efficient, I couldn't be using my energy. I had to use the things around me and work efficiently. And yeah, the more efficient you get, you do twice as much by doing half as much. And there's a lot of how I learned to shear actually applied in like the Qigong and the Neigong stuff, is that slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
That's one of my favorite sayings, actually. I love that saying.
Yeah, the mantra of mine too.
Hmm.
So basically, like an animation, the more frames per second, the smoother the movement. And like I'm only 65 kilos, and the sheep were weighing 80 80 to 100 kilos. Now it's turning over 400 a day.
So you're like a professional wrestler, except you've got 400 different opponents.
Yeah. And each one is, there's no point getting agitated with one, because as soon as you grab the next one, you just spread that agitation. And so that every minute is a new animal. Start again.
Yeah.
Don't carry over. Start again. Which also equates to how we do the Qigong stuff as well.
So you must
And
have
yeah, I
got
learned
a lot of endurance, like a lot of resilience in your body if you're holding for 400. I mean, how long would it take you to shear one sheep with a high quality shear of one?
45 seconds or so.
45 seconds. So if we equate that 400 times, give or take, setup, yeah, that's like 400 minutes of shearing non-stop.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
if you ever stood in a Qigong posture for 400 minutes, you're going to know about it. You're like
yeah.
seriously going to know about it.
Well, so you know the Wing Chun stance, the goat stance that they use in Wing Chun. It's called the goat stance, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've shown
It's
over
like
half
that
a
kind of
million.
triangulation of the feet, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I've shown over 500,000 sheep in that position.
Yeah.
But another aspect of it, which again might give a bit more context, is in this hand, my blades are running at about 3,500 RPM. And this hand is this far away from it. And there's a live animal in the middle. But one of the things which I have to do is to tighten the skin, pull the fascia so that I don't hook up on skin and take skin off as well.
Hmm.
So I've got a sensation for how you've got skin on the top and the fascia and the muscle and then the bone. And I had quite a good relationship with being able to sense that kind of depth and how to stretch skin and that sort of thing. Yeah, so moving forward, once I got into the martial arts, this
Tell
skill.
me about how you met. Like, how did you meet Lyndon? Were you at a festival or did you just,
Okay,
yeah?
okay, yeah, okay, we'll go then. So yeah, I did. I used to do fire shows and some flow arts. For those that don't know what that is, dancing with fire, being all fabulous.
Making lots of swirly patterns in the sky.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the cool things with that stuff is it's all the same body mechanics, right? And having the fire or the LEDs really gives a sense of the geometry of the body, understanding the circles. What is a circle? At what perspective you're viewing the circle. For example, like you see a circle this way, but if I would turn 90 degrees, you just see me going up and down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So this stuff also relates into the martial arts. And I had a stick. It was just a stick. It's called a dragon staff. So it's a stick with spokes on the end that constantly rolls. And I was playing with this thing one day, and because it's always moving, there's a perpetual energy in it. And when it runs out of space, there's a polar flip, and then the energy comes back at you, and then there's a polar flip, and then it goes the other way, and it's always moving. And then I just dropped the stick one day, and it's like, where's all that energy gone? You know, it confused me to the sense, okay, I'm adding momentum to it, but that's an inanimate object.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tried a couple of martial arts schools around here, and nothing really gelled. And then one day, my girlfriend actually found Lyndon's gym on the internet. So I called in one day, had a cup and a chat, and we hit it off. We hit it off very well, and Lyndon's skill levels very up there, and he's got a very good way of teaching it with Masayap's string theory and the modalities that teach with. And yeah, I just kind of took to it, and You know, the expression, the further down the rabbit hole you go, the bigger the rabbit hole gets, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's like hyperspace into another and into another galaxy, into another realm. And like, so you obviously had body mechanics skill. I mean, learning to do flow movement. You did you pick that up yourself, or did somebody teach you, or did you, on your travels?
Yeah. Well, my go-to prop was poi, which is a ball on a string.
Hmm.
Around. And
Yeah,
how I got into that was it's a Maori thing. It's native New Zealand. They originated in New Zealand,
yeah,
and they do it with the hakas and whatnot. But this Maori lady showed me a basic move, which is a 3-beat weave. But if I was doing it up here, it was a really good stretch on my lower back.
yeah,
And I used to just stretch my back while I was waiting for the showers in the shearing sheds. Um, and that's where that started. And when I moved to Holland, I met some people doing it in a very, very creative way. You know, the fire shows and all the special effects and
yeah.
pyrotechnics and that sort of thing. And that's where that developed.
That's brilliant.
Um, so yeah, initially it was just a back exercise, then started to get a little bit more expressive. Um, I wasn't really the best performer. I didn't like being on the stage,
Yeah,
but it got me into some festivals, and I had a good time with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like as my dad used to say, his best mate was brilliant Elvis impersonator, so he used to get him into nightclubs for free.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of what it was
Yeah, yeah,
initially.
yeah,
And when I first moved to Holland, so I moved to Holland to get out of the sheep shearing.
yeah,
Um, I was starting to, I'm not 21 anymore, and I was starting to see that there's a working like that comes at a cost to my own health.
yeah,
Um, moved to Holland where I thought, right, there's no sheep there. I'll go have a look.
yeah,
Uh, did a little bit of fire shows for a little bit of pocket money, but I also saw that there was no shearers in this country, and I needed to earn some money, so
yeah.
started for myself and kind of became a victim of my own success.
Well, I suppose with the sharing, it gives you some flexibility to earn money in the year while you're building up your practice.
Yeah,
For me, I worked double. I was double jobbing for years. I had a day job and then I'd treat people in the evening
yeah,
before I have confidence to step away and say, right, I'm going to be a full-time therapist. And sometimes that can take you years to. I remember when I met my wife, she was like, you can't keep going with two jobs. You need to. So I'm pretty much working 40 hours in one job and then another 30 hours as a therapist. It
yeah,
was, it's like ridiculous.
yeah.
Um, but I suppose having that skill is a skill that you can keep. I mean, it's a global skill, isn't it? Shearing.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like 3 months, and then next country, 3 months next country,
Yeah,
chasing the summer.
yeah, yeah. And now, obviously we've met, I think 3 or 4 times now, and you were over here in Ireland helping teach some of the stage one basics here with Lyndon. And I know we've had a lot of conversations in and around the energetics of it, but when you were training with Lyndon, was it purely you were coming at it from a martial arts perspective and then realized, oh, hold on a minute, I need to really recalibrate, become more aware of my internals, my internal health to rejuvenate? Because I know you said you'd had a lot of back issues from bending over for 20 years. Um, so what was that light bulb moment when you went, oh, there's more to martial arts than just defending and fighting. It's a health rejuvenation practice.
Yeah. So after realizing for a long time that I've been using my back, I've been abusing my back. I didn't actually have back problems. I've got to state that,
Yeah.
but it was rock solid. It
Okay.
was just it was a stick that propped me up effectively, and the head could do this on the top.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and because I was so stiff, I could be pushed over with no effort whatsoever. And I was understanding that the stiffness, I could go loose,
Mm.
but I was really loose when I was bent over,
Mm. Right.
right? When I was standing up straight, I was stiff as a board. And through through beginning to understand the string, being able to put my weight down, let everything drop, let everything get into my feet. I made a spinal adjustment, not on purpose. It was just something that kind of happened.
Mm.
Um, but then my whole spine it just linked up like a zip.
Right.
Zip, went up one side, went down, came back down again, and then I had more freedom here. I had more freedom in my chest. I had freedom in my lower back, and it was when we say aha moments. You ever seen those videos where like a colorblind person gets a pair of glasses for the first time, or someone gets a hearing aid,
Yeah, they
and
get like an implant and they've never heard. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, those videos they hit you right in the feels and say, "Oh." I think I had a similar moment to that because I didn't realize that there was so much space inside my spine,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it's been a little bit of a quest to unpack what I've been holding in there. Um, but finding a space that I can lift my whole spine up, I can put my whole spine down.
Yeah.
Uh, that on a physical level was was a big thing for me. Um, but not only that, the the release brought out some stuff, some old stuff, the emotional stuff, psychological stuff. There was all sorts of nonsense saved up in there.
Mm.
Um,
Issues are
and
in issues, right?
yeah, and yeah, I just the more I release, once I release something, then there's space.
Mm.
So then I can fill up that space with what I choose to, in the sense that I can load up and I can fill myself up with tension ready to release, or I can just fill myself up with, okay, what is it that I need to do next? Put it down, relax, dunk, load up. Ah, that's what I need to do. You know, there's different translations of what you can store in there.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it gave me access to my spine, which is something that I thought I had a quite a good back, being able, shearing for 20 years. Um, but not to this level. As
So
it
you basically learned spinal qigong or spinal neigong indirectly.
indirectly, yeah.
So you became
But
very strong in that forward posture, bent forward, and you became very accomplished in that posture. But then in an upright posture, things had
yeah,
to recalibrate.
yeah, because like when I'm leaning over, my shoulders were up here. Gravity's pulling my arms down. I'm pushing
Mm.
into sheep, so I'm really like here.
Mm.
Then when I stand up, I had like this,
Mm.
and I'm just learning how to be here.
Yeah.
Uh, so much nicer, and then it lets the tension drop,
Yeah.
which lets the tension drop.
Were you always a light build, Gary? Like, were you always like lean and mean sort of
Yeah,
build? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've been in the 62 to 68 kilo range my entire adult life. And
Mm.
then I've just come back from Malaysia in end of February,
Yeah.
an Asian tour. And 2 weeks in Asia, I went up to 74 kilos.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Well, when
yeah,
I spent my time in China, I actually lost weight. I go in around 89 kg and I come back 80 kg. And my wife used to say, like, what's going on? I said, I don't know, but I was pissing like a racehorse all the way through. And what I realized what it was there was no dairy. I wasn't having no dairy. There was no chocolate, no ice cream. And I was having like 2 liters green tea a day. So it was actually like a diet. And I was eating like three, like in the morning, you'd have protein, and
Yeah.
proper veg. So having cereal and this kind of you're having like a proper meal for breakfast. And my body
Yeah,
was like, so we're eating fish and veg and, steamed buns for breakfast. It was like Kung Fu Panda. And I thought,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna be really fat. But no, I was
I
actually
remember
losing weight. But I mean,
we
I suppose it depends on the food and where you're at,
yeah, the Asian diet suits my body. I mean, I remember one morning we'd been in Kuala Lumpur for just a few days, but we woke up one morning at like 6 o'clock and it's like, is it too early to be hungry?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we got up and we went down to this like street food, uh, little street food place
Hmm.
and having like roti.
Nice.
It's like curry for breakfast.
Yeah,
Get
yeah,
in.
yeah. It's like you can do other things you can't do at home
Yeah, I mean,
don't feel guilty.
the idea of like something spicy for breakfast was just nah. But yeah, I ate very well while out
So
in
you
over there.
so 2016 you met Lyndon, you started training. Did you have an emphasis on going into like fighting style, like a Wing Chun style, or did because of where Lyndon was at and where he was evolving, did he kind of just pull you on that journey? Or
Well, initially, what I signed up with Lynn was in the Wing Chun,
Hmm,
um, and like he also had the 5A, but Wing Chun was what his website was offering and whatnot. Um, and we did just kind of drift more into the five ancestors because it's more sophisticated. Um, no offense to the Wing Chun practitioners out there, but uh the there was just way more to it with the 5A.
hmm,
And yeah, let's say once we started to work on the Shou Gong,
hmm,
particularly the first six,
hmm.
um, I was getting better at it, but the master up and then okay, now it's time to go start teaching
Hmm.
because that's where you start to learn, right? Learn to teach and teach to learn.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the more I got into the internals on the Yan Shou Gong, and then I could apply it,
Hmm.
and yeah, I drifted away from the Wing Chun and more into the five ancestors.
Yeah. I think it's like anything, I spent probably from the age of 11 to around mid 20s doing quite a hard style, you know, and a lot of dynamic kicks, a lot of the kind of stuff seeing on social media now. And it looks, now when I watch it, it's funny. I can't do any of that stuff and have no draw to it, but I can definitely from practicing more of an internal style, I can look at people and just see how much they are damaging their structure, how off balance they are, how very easily you can disrupt their energy, their power delivery. Now, not with everything. I mean, not with everything, but I mean, sometimes it's timing. Like some of the best in martial arts, some of the best strikes that I've ever delivered to an opponent has been they've walking onto the kick.
Yeah,
It's not even that, that I kicked that hard. It's just timing. It was timing. Um, but what I learned, you guys here were last weekend, and you witnessed it, and Lyndon sent me about 3 or 4 feet up in the air, just from walking to trying to like jump on him, and literally me jumping on him was reversed, and I went up and should we say bounced off a shelf, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I've had that happen to me many, many times now.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's confusing to the central nervous system, because you're expecting to be hit.
Yeah,
It's like this energy force just goes, wee, where you
yeah.
go.
And
Uh,
there's a weird. So I've been the demo, but the demo guy for several workshops now. But
You're
there's
like the hard northerner, so let's beat up guys.
but there's a thing that like you can deliver force to take a point that's one thing.
Hmm.
But when you start to understand that there's more than that happening,
Yeah.
and the way I've described it in the past is like you stand on a table, right? And you take that one step off the edge. You've got the you can collapse that hard, but then there's something solid underneath you that you're going to land on.
Hmm.
And then the person that's got the solid thing that you're going to land on can then deliver all of their power on top of that.
Yeah. It's the ultimate bitch slap, really.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. And and this is where again, so I didn't get go so much down the martial side. You know,
No.
it was never with an intent to fight or because I'm not a violent person.
Hmm.
Um, used to be in my younger years. Um, but it's funny, all the fights I used to get into were the most uncoordinated,
A mess.
drunken, drunken. Just let's not even go there.
Yeah. Haymakers and swinging wildly and
Yeah,
rolling around on the floor, grunting.
yeah. But another aspect to it is that so I've got a son over here. He's almost 5,
Hmm.
and I wanted to be able to teach him some martial arts because when I was growing up in Northern, I was bullied. Uh, I was always the little one. You know, until I was about 17, I was only like 3'6". I was a midget. Um, and I don't want for him to have to go through the same. I want to know that, okay, somebody crosses your boundaries, fine, throat punch them,
Hmm.
right? Don't live, because I was constantly scared of getting a kicking.
Hmm.
And I didn't want that for him. So there was also, that was an additional motivation to learn so that I could teach him.
Hmm.
Um, and it's also a testament to the Shou Gong in the sense that when I've really sort of dived into it full on, I've also watched him develop physically. His development and my sort of deep dive were symbiotic of each other, and you can see that you know, you take an infant that you want to put them in a bath and they don't want to go into the bath. They can engage themselves in a way that you can't bend them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can't say that a baby's got more muscular power than an adult, but you can't bend them.
No.
You can tickle them or poke them in the eye, whatever it is. You need to disrupt their body. But
Hmm.
when they're engaged, there's no bending them.
No. They're
Um,
amazing strong.
yeah. So watching his development plus my own deep dive gave more authenticity to what I was learning. And then the funny thing is, the more I started to see how easy you can count to 3, right? Most people can count to 3: legs, spine, arms. Or you want to go the other way: arms, spine, legs. Yet you watch most people try and go through their day, they forget the spine. They want to lift with their legs, they lift with their arms, and then everything compounds into that spine.
Hmm.
Um, which causes balance issues, which causes walking issues. I just notice everybody's gait now. I never used to pay any attention to that, but I watch how people walk. They're always falling on the ground instead of pushing the ground away.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, the more I see it, the more I see where this stuff can help.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the year that I've been properly training in it, it's like um I get golfers, horse riders approaching me for help. And it's like, okay, I don't play golf. I've done a bit of horse riding, and there's certain sports that I don't do, but I understand through many years of being a therapist and working physically on the body with the body, and through body mechanics awareness, muscle testing, physical therapy, all those things, the Chinese medicine aspects, you can kind of go, okay, when you add in that internal awareness, it's all about efficiency. It's all about making the system more efficient. This is not like I did a walking ramble the other day on on my Instagram page, and I said, this is about becoming
Yeah,
more normal, not like superhuman. Like superhuman is normal.
yeah,
There's a normal function. We've lost that. It's either been taken away from us, it's been deprogrammed, we've
yeah,
forgotten it, blah 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 blah, whatever you want to say. But it's like I'm convinced we had access to this knowledge um long time ago,
yeah,
long even before even Chinese culture was writing about it.
yeah, yeah. No, it's when you like I've seen it myself. I've been thrown around by Lyndon and Master Yap, and I've seen it with my own because I was in I before I got into I was very skeptical of the whole internal world,
Hmm.
right? Because there's a lot of phony stuff on the internet, and it's what you can't see. It's very difficult to judge from a screen, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that it's getting thrown around like that, the force and the force that I was getting bumped with, right,
Yeah.
was coming through so effortlessly rather than efforting. And I've worked with like big Maori shearers that don't have a neck. They've just got an ear on either shoulder, and they're just tanks,
Yeah.
right? But they're delivering muscular power, and they're always chasing it. Whereas, like with the internal stuff, it's so soft that it doesn't require effort, and you've got access to way like 10 times more power than you think you do. Um, but yeah, I've seen so many people benefit in the sense that they didn't realize just how strong they actually were
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're losing 80% of their own strength to fight themselves.
Fight themselves, fight the world, fight their emotions.
Yeah, but there's something in that at the um there's a lesson there.
Yeah.
Not just in the physical, there's a lesson there.
I did 4 years of inner alchemy training, a Taoist style inner alchemy training in London. And it was part-time, but you were expected to train at least an hour a day minimum every day. So you can figure that out. You're talking 1,200 hours at home or more or less, maybe 1,500 hours at home, plus all the training on top. And I did it and I did it. And I had my ups and my downs and my sensitivities and days when my legs were crippled and my back was sore. But I got through it, and we started, it was like 28 in the class. And by the time we got to year four, there was only four of us left. So literally the attrition rate was huge. And it can be partly lifestyle and people are busy and finances, but a lot of it was just, I think, people had reached a certain limit and then they couldn't see beyond what they were getting. And I remember thinking, I've cruised through this pretty much. I've got away with this. And I remember my dad had passed away that year, and he was like a funeral was coming up. And I had to go to graduate in London with this college and the two teachers. And it's quite a bit of an emotional experience you just gotta kind of, I said to myself, my dad would want me to do this, get on the plane, just go and graduate. Brought my wife, and it was the last 2 or 3 hours of the last class of graduation. And we were just doing a normal, ordinary seated meditation, working on the organ systems. And then this tremendous anger just rose. It was like an explosion. And I remember wanting to pick up the chair that I was sat on, pick it up, lift it over my head, and throw it at the teacher because I felt like he was pushing us beyond our human possible limits. And as I went to do it, the teacher just folded his hands, started smiling, and went, "Finally, there he is. There he is." As if to say, all that old junk, you have been carrying it for 4 years, and it's taken this moment for you to finally release it. And you're kind of releasing it in an old habitual pattern. In the past, if someone pissed me off, it would be pick up the nearest broom handle or, pick up a traffic cone and launch it.
Yeah.
And then I was like standing there, like and holding the chair, and then looking around, and everybody else was still very peaceful in the moment. And I thought, wow, that's very powerful. I've just realized how much crap junk I've been holding on to. But it
Yeah.
took, so the point I'm making is that particular something that we've done regularly, but it took 4 years of regularly practicing that meditation for finally the body to go, dump it, get it out, move it. And in that moment of anger, I was looking around going, huh, I look like a total twat. This chair above my head. Where are you going to go with that? What's the
Yeah.
outcome? What's the outcome? It's not going to be very good. I'm not positive in any way whatsoever. And I realized, Christ, we can walk around with that inside us and not even realize.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a little bit like I can relate to that because when I started to uh, let go of my spine a little bit, because that was one thing. It even just saying the words, I was holding on to my spine when I stood up. I
Mm,
could let it go when I was bent over. I
mm,
had to let it go because I needed the extra reach. But when I stood up, I had to hold on to it because if I dropped it, yeah, just saying that in words
mm,
is kind of relevant. Um, but the sort of stuff that you can hold on inside, and not just that it affects the way you work. It's not that you're holding on to it with no effect,
mm, mm,
because I know that. Um, so as a shearer, I'd wear these vest tops, and they used to be like quite. I've got quite a collection from all the contractors that I used to work with, but I'd always have one on under my t-shirt, right? And I did this for, well, still, but once I started training with Linton, we started wearing more lighter tops. Linton's one, they're the synthetic, so the breathable ones, right? So I started taking the singlet off, but I realized that it's like I'm wearing an identity that I don't take off. If I take one off, I just put the same identity back on, then I put another identity on top of it.
yeah,
But I was sweating too much, so I started taking the singlets off, and then, oh, wait a sec, wait a minute.
yeah.
Um, you can put that stuff down,
It's heavy.
and yeah, yeah. But because they say when you hold on to that sort of stuff, right, you can't be anything else. It's got to go through a filter of I am this first, or I am this first. Everything has to go through this mode. You can put it down.
Mm,
You can put it down. You can do something else over here for a while. You can do something else up here for a while. You can pick it back up again anytime you like, but you don't have to carry it. And where sort of, I think it was for every centimeter that you hold your shoulders up is about 12 kilos.
mm, mm.
Yeah. So it's so nice to when you put it down, you can relax. Even in putting it down,
Yeah.
you ask anybody to do this, right? Just say put your shoulders down, and immediately they'll go.
Yeah. To release.
Just that breath.
Yeah. And you feel more balanced and more centered from that.
Yeah, indeed.
So, so in 2016 started training. I mean, I know Master Yap says 3 years of Shou Gong is like 10 years of ordinary, and the way he delivers it and the didactic approach of breaking it down. So you got sort of to 2019. We then was staring down this so-called virus, blah, 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 started to appear on the scene. And did you then decide to double down on your training as we weren't going anywhere, or what was your plan?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like I realized at that time that my health is my responsibility and no one else's. And I wasn't doing enough for my health. I was fortunate that Lyndon also shared my opinion on this.
Mm.
And we just started to train a lot.
Mm.
And we went through a phase, like he's got a big whiteboard in his gym.
Mm.
And we went through just this phase of just like, okay, so if I do this,
Mm.
what happens here? And we just started doodling on just experimenting. And it was like an awesome time of self-discovery that, yeah, that like the knee bone's connected to the thigh bone and all that. But
Mm.
we really started to play with, okay, if I do this, it comes out there, but why does it come out there? What path is it taking? Is it coming up this side? Is it coming up this side to come out there? Or is it coming up this side to come out here?
Yeah, yeah.
We just started playing around. And I mean, Lyndon knew a lot of it already, but he allowed me to discover it for myself.
Yeah. So
And
he's invested a lot of time in you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm very, very grateful to both him and Master Yap on that level.
And when
Yes.
was the first time your encounter with Master Yap face to face?
I think that would be 2017. I did a workshop. So he has a nice little story to give you. So I did a workshop with Master Yap in, I think it was 2017, and it was just a small thing at Lyndon's place. And upon first meeting this older fella that's a bit frail, it looks a bit frail.
Yeah.
um,
Very light build, isn't he?
yeah, he doesn't look the formidable force that he is. But he did this thing where, and he did it on one of the YouTube videos as well. But he's like, I took a hold of his hands, and he's like, pull. So I was pulling on his hands, and it was like trying to move a house.
Mm.
There wasn't a fraction of a millimeter of movement. And he's like, well, I'll give you nothing, but I'm not taking anything away. And then he's like, but if I give you everything, and then he gave us his hands,
Mm.
but then he plucked me out the ground like a weed. He's like, I'll give you everything, I'll take everything away.
Mm.
And that was something that really kind of stuck because it's a truth that stands up on every level, whether it be on the physical, on the psychological, emotional, ethereal. You get what you give.
Yeah.
And it really stuck with me. But I remember the sensation of trying to pull him. And honestly, it's like moving a building. It's just not happening.
Mm.
So the same night, I went down to see some friends of mine, Ganilla, and she had a fire performing company. And I was trying to explain some of the things we've been doing in this workshop. So, and I touched hands with her to try and show her some of this stuff. She'd been a ballet dancer for 30 years, classically trained ballet. Now, trying to find her structure was impossible.
Mm.
She was like air.
Mhm.
No matter how I tried to like manipulate or move, she
Mm.
just wasn't there.
Mhm. Interesting.
So in the same day, I like tried to push against a lead pyramid,
Yeah.
but also I tried to put on something that with no grounding whatsoever. and I saw that, oh, there's really something here, because the contrast was so stark.
Mm.
I said, oh, there's really something here. Let's pursue this.
Yeah.
Um, and
So
that day was the hook.
that was the hook. Mm.
That was the hook that I couldn't let go of after that.
So when the whole viral nonsense started to calm down and we come out of it, you guys started traveling. I see you've been Germany, Luxembourg,
Oh, we've been all over. Yeah.
yeah, and obviously here to Ireland. First time, well, not first time for you in Ireland, but you know what I mean. And then more recently, this year, end of last year, beginning this year, you spent something like 5 or 6 weeks in Asia, like training pretty much most days. What was that like?
Yeah, well, it was amazing. Asia was amazing. We did the Marshall camp with the Marshall man, which was phenomenal.
Hmm.
Phenomenal to be to touch hands with so many highly skilled people. And then we did a 5 day intensive in Chiang Mai in Thailand. Um, we did a 5 day in Shou Gong, and then from there we went to Bali as a group of instructors, just getting a certification.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. But going back to like the end of COVID,
Hmm.
the momentum that would build up prior to that, oh, I should say, the momentum that they had at
Hmm.
that time just ceased. COVID just put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Um, and before Master Yap could come back to Europe, Lyndon had Lyndon did a double workshop at the Shaolin Temple Europe, which I went with him as a as an assistant,
Hmm.
and that was kind of my introduction to the higher level teaching. Um, so we did the workshop at Shaolin Temple, and then when Master Yap did finally come back, he's like, "Okay, let's get some workshops going
Hmm.
across Europe,"
Yeah.
because Lyndon was the chief instructor for Europe, obviously. Um, and yeah, that would be. I think it's been 2 years now. Done. I
Yeah.
don't know how many countries now.
Yeah.
We've
Amazing.
been all over, and
And
it's really,
I know we had a discussion like emphasis leaning now towards the corporate field and helping those people who are, under a lot of stress, pressure. I mean, I've done some corporate work in it, and the feedback's been amazing because it's like there's no panacea for all, right? It's very difficult to have a medicine that helps all people. Very difficult. People get something from everything. And some of the corporate groups are with they came expecting yoga, which
yeah,
whatever. I get it. It is very popular and much loved. And they came then expecting me to do some sort of meditation or hypnotherapy, de-stress. And actually, we got them up moving and standing and feeling the body and breathing. And the feedback I got was phenomenal. Like, there wasn't one negative feedback, even from people who would stand at the back of the class, were perhaps a bit more introverted, perhaps you could tell we're a little bit more resistant. But because we weren't doing the standard,
yeah.
it made it more interesting for them. And like one thing very powerful when you guys were over is Lyndon, he sat me aside and we had a big chat about this. And he said, one thing people don't realize is this work that has been developed is a gift. So once you have it and you work with it, it's a gift for life.
Yeah.
And it's one thing that you can keep getting better at as you age if you work with it. Um, yeah, at times it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't always
Not
necessarily.
as life though.
No, exactly. But inside, and for me, I don't know if you're. I know we discussed a little bit of the spiritual side of stuff, and we've both had profound experiences as young men. But I think there is, depending on what your needs are, I think this work gives you uh, what you need, not what you want. If
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. That's for sure.
And so I know we talked a little bit about how it helps you martially, but it really is about body mechanics and understanding how true efficiency can be created through correct control and alignment and breath work and intention. But are you starting now? I mean, Christ, we're talking 8 years now. Are you starting to feel other shifts occur at a different layer?
Yeah, 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 for sure. Definitely, definitely. I mean, it's on the one hand, it's it's so interesting how the more I develop my own skill, right, the more I refine it, and it's in refining that there are lessons to be learned. That you learn it in the physical, but it applies on other levels, right? And I know, like, I've experienced it firsthand when you learn something, and then it's like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to feel, but now I can do the same thing just here. You make it smaller, you make it smaller, and then all of a sudden, I just need to think my way through it, and my body will make the internal alignment. But where this, where I think this is heading in some respects is when you feel aligned and grounded and solid. And this is something that happened to me, and this is something that I want to help give people back because they've lost it somewhere along the ways. Is the alignment, the grounding, the rooting, centered. That's a physical sensation. Now, when I get like mentally wobbly or emotionally wobbly, I know what stability feels like again. So I can just go back to stability and I can move forward from stability. Now, it might not sound like that much, but it has been so beneficial on so many levels to have instant access to feeling stable. Right?
Yeah,
You know, you got all your stresses, you got all your bills to pay. You know, we've all got it. But being able to go back to being stable, feel what's stable, because the key is in feeling stable. Right? You take that feeling, this is what stability feels like. And now I'm going to make my decisions from here. Right? You just make better decisions.
absolutely. 100%. 100%. I say to my clients, like, do you know what it is to be grounded? And they'll come up with their version. And I said, do you know what it's like to be grounded and rooted? And they're like, well, I don't know what rooting is. And then they talk about earthing. And I say, well, okay, let's be absolutely clear that, earthing is literally taking your shoes and socks off and walking on the earth. And it's
Yeah.
electromagnetic exchange of energy, which is valid, very good for health. And some people would say don't do it too often because the earth is a magnet and can draw energy from you too. But um, most of the people so most of our skills, our strengths, our physicality, our ability to thrive and survive comes from our ancestors who were nomadic essentially. And they'd
And who
walk,
were mostly bare feet on the ground, I might add.
they were earthing in a grounded manner.
Okay, earthing's not the same as grounding and rooting.
Oh. So this is what I say to my clients is that you can be on a plane, not be earthed, but you can be grounded.
Yeah.
Because for me, grounding is a combination of feeling your structure in a complete tensegrity,
Yeah.
the feet up and from the head down to the feet, and then brings with it mental, emotional, spiritual settling. I mean, it's obviously more complicated than that, but I think it's a very valuable lesson for those in the corporate sector in work, day-to-day work, even those working in an intensive environment, you know. And it is a tool. It's a tool. It's a life tool, right? It's a
That's
life.
the thing. That's the
And
thing.
yeah,
You
we
can
can
use
edit.
it, but the thing is, it's like I mentioned before about, the colorblind person getting those glasses, right?
Yeah,
It's it's a tool which you can access anytime, but you don't know what you don't know,
yeah, yeah.
right? So if you don't know what this is, and you don't know what this feels like, and you can't relate to it, you don't know what you're missing, right? Fair enough. But one thing that goes hand in hand with that is this mental emotional loop that people get stuck in. And you saw that through COVID, right? Mental tension causes emotional tension, and all of this just whirls around here. Go back to the physicality.
Mhm.
It's the switch. It's the switch to put it all down. And if you're sat, diddling at a computer all day and you're locked into a screen and your world's about this big and you've got the entire cosmos of the internet running through your mind, right?
Mhm.
Can you do your feet?
You think you can, but can you really?
Yeah, yeah,
And that's important why we do that pressure testing.
yeah, yeah. And the cool thing, so I just want to mention something
Yeah.
about that, the pressure testing with the Shou Gong, um, which is really useful for people to know, is with the pressure testing, if somebody's pushing on you and you take a posture, someone's pushing on you, and
Mhm.
it's affecting how you move. If you try and move that person, you will move from the wrong place. You will move from the hand, and you won't be able to move them, right? Because your attention is on the person. But when you focus on your own alignment, the person moves all by himself. It's a byproduct, and it's a really interesting thing to note. And I've watched people do it over and over again. They'll be pushing into someone and they'll not be able to move them, and they'll still try and they'll still try and they'll fight and fight and fight, but they're fighting themselves. And say, okay, focus on yourself and watch what happens. And then they focus on themselves. They move from the feet up through the spine, down through the shoulders, out to the hands, and then the person attached to the hands moves with no effort whatsoever. And it's when they realize that they've got access to that kind of power through relaxation rather than tension, you just watch their eyes light up and people walk out of these workshops like six
Yeah.
inches taller.
Yeah.
So
Well,
rewarding.
you saw what happened when you were here in Ireland with some of the students, and some of them were actually clients of mine that know me for
Yeah.
quite some time. And the level of this is so counterintuitive. And I said, well, hang on a minute. Maybe it's your intuition hasn't been isn't. If you were to go that layer deeper, and you realize it's not counterintuitive, it's just there's a message that's been programmed in to say it is. But
Yeah.
you get to meditate on it, you realize it makes sense to be more efficient.
Yeah, but Alice had to go down a whole rabbit hole to figure out that everything was backwards, though, didn't she?
Yeah, so we're on the LSD of Neigong here. Um,
Up is down, back is forward.
that's it. I mean, the thing is with Neigong, there's a big movement at the moment I see in Asia of Westerners teaching Neigong from a very much sit and meditate, don't move, build up chi in the dantian, which is, a method, a valid method, and I get it. But for me, I like a path of fun.
Yeah, well, I can't comment on any other
No.
Neigong systems because I've only practiced this one. But there's a thing about this one which is it's amazing. So there's 36 short sets,
Mm,
right? And the the depth of the first six is astonishing. And I've been teaching it now for 2 years, and I'm still finding something new at every workshop, just about. But the cool thing about it is, as you gain insight, as you work through it, and you work through the sets, as you gain insight, you've got to go back to set one,
mm,
delete what you know, and apply what you've learned.
mm.
And that can be like frustrating. It's both frustrating and exciting at the same time. It's like,
Yeah,
yes, I'm finally there.
yeah.
Ah,
I'm
no,
still
I'm going
on the first six.
on again.
I have access to 7 and 12, but I'm still just with the first six because it's like, ah, yeah, no, that like when you guys came over, Lyndon was like, well, actually, it's more efficient if you do it this way, and then actually you need to set your leg better if it's this way. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's like that idea that you said to me, it's a mile wide but 10 miles deep, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Depth. It go deep rather than wide.
Yeah. So
And
so carrying forward, then we got through that whole COVID, and then you started traveling, and then it's like I feel, and I don't know if you feel it, there's this kind of explosion in this work is beginning. It's starting to build momentum, you
yeah,
know, and we're starting to track people outside of the normal fold. So, typically you'd have Tai Chi or Shingi Bagua players or people who've done some kind of maybe a karate or Aikido coming in to
yeah.
see what we're all about. But now it's starting to, you've got, as I say, bakers, butchers, candlestick makers coming,
Indeed. Yeah,
um, and so you guys are going to come back in May 18th and 19th, and I know that you're bringing Master Yap with you and another instructor from Brandon from Malaysia, and also special guest Dennis Wang. And I
yeah.
know you've done a little bit of work with Dennis, and it seems like he'd been on a bit of a journey, talking to him on
And that is
so some systems complement each other because you have the Shaolin stretching, energy work, and then you have the kind of the alignment and structure of the Yan Shou Gong.
yeah,
So you is there anything like so for you, is there a message that you want to give the audience? Because obviously some people are still like, what is this all about? If
yeah.
if you to describe the difference between Neigong and Qigong or
Um, I'm
Shao
not going to go into that
yeah.
that bit, but one thing I'd say to everybody that just even if you're not that interested, right? I was a sheep shearer with no martial arts experience, or very, very little martial arts experience till a few years ago. I got into this, and this gave me access to a strength that I had no idea I even had. And we've all got access to it. Now, when I lived in New Zealand, I used to surf, and there's a really big analogy to surfing with this. That yes, you're right. There's a momentum, and there's something underneath pushing this forward, and it's like surfing. If you don't commit, you're going to eat shit.
Mhm.
But there's that undergoing force. You'll know from playing with this by the quality of the force. It is unstoppable,
Mhm.
right? It's coming. It's coming one way or the other. Get on board or don't.
Mhm.
But you've got access to a power which you have no idea about.
Mhm.
And yeah, do yourself a favor and just come and feel it.
And from a health perspective, what has it given you apart from obviously we talked about
From a
spine?
health
Spine,
perspective,
yeah.
uh, uh, apart from additional mobility, um, my lung capacity increased, my mental clarity. It's very, very easy for me um, to drop where when I get stuck in mental tension, I can just drop it, fill up again. Right, that in itself is such a tool. I can't express how that interfaces with everything I do. Right, it's everything. Um,
And it's fun.
another health benefit as well, which is like in terms of circulation, right? Because if everything because I can now circulate stuff in my body, stuff doesn't get stagnant, and that manifests in the outside world as well, right? Yeah. Again, I don't want to go too much off into the woo woo, but
Ah, go on, you do.
no, but
Let me tell you.
no, but the thing, like things that used to get stagnant with me, right? In terms of like things that I needed to do or stuff in the outside world that I just put off, and I would keep putting off.
Mm,
But now that I can circulate, it's easy to come back to those things and just do it bit by bit.
yeah.
You know, the
It
things that
sounds
are,
like sounds like to me you're changing your internal state because
yeah,
you
oh, yeah,
because you can
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
have control over that. And then when you do that, the external environment resonates to match that internal change. Am I correct?
Yeah, and we have there's a Master App talks about the stages of learning internals. And the first one is move the outside to move the inside. There's a few stages in the middle, but it gets to move the inside to move the outside.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm starting to play in that realm, that by aligning myself internally, the universe is providing exactly what I need.
Yeah.
Everything is moving in a way that is I'm the center of the vortex.
So it's also interesting watching you like we did a little energy exchange, chi exchange, both applied with hands on and hands not on. And you realize that even if you're not a healer or you're not in that realm, the act of being more efficient allows that energy to be used for good,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and that you're able to recycle the energy rather than drawing on your own energy and getting
yeah.
burnt
So one little thing I just add to that a little bit is from working with animals for so long, right? There's they have they have two states, right? Stress is there's no emotional range with animals in terms of stress. It's on or it's off. It's binary, right? So you've got fire or calm, right? And if you learn, because you learn to play in the calm. Like if I'm calm, I can keep them calm. If I'm antsy and uptight, they're antsy and uptight. But one thing that happens over time is if you start paying more attention to
Mm.
the calm starts to pay more attention to you as well.
Mm.
And the reverse is true with the fiery, uptight stress response. You spend all your time reacting and super stressed and super strung out. Everything around you will appear stressed and strung out.
Yeah.
So the pay attention to the calm because you get good at what you practice.
Mm.
So learning how to calm down is if you talk about the corporate world, that learning how to calm down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting into that eye of the storm, isn't it? And staying there,
Yeah,
observing
yeah.
the madness around you.
Well, that's the moving the inside to move the outside.
One of my teachers stuck me in the middle of a roundabout, in a busy roundabout with reams of traffic, and he made me do a standing postures. It's called 8 step. And I felt such an absolute twat doing it. But he said the trick is doing it sincerely,
Yeah.
not doing it because trying to force yourself to block the world out. And then he was testing what it would do to my groundedness. And of
Hmm.
course, people going around looking at, and you're worried about what people are thinking. What do you look like? You look a bit weird. What's that? What are these two men doing, touching each other randomly
Yeah.
on a traffic roundabout? It was kind of like an interesting experience. He was trying to push me over, and I was trying to stand up. And then eventually he's like, make it, go to that place where it's just about doing it,
Yeah.
not being engaged in the external
I had
noise.
a similar experience when like we're doing fire shows, right? Did this one big show where there was a big audience and I was doing this big show and actually got my set quite quite right. But at some point I had my eyes closed, so I turned 45 degrees. So actually all my shapes, the audience missed all my shapes and they just saw this. It was crap. Um, but at the same event, I went away and I just spun for I just had a play for myself, put my headphones on, closed my eyes, and I had my eyes closed for like nearly 40 minutes. But when I opened up, there was like 300 people standing around watching me, right? And it's just the same thing. It's like I was on stage trying to do a show for everyone to see,
Yeah, I get you.
and I just want everyone to see it, and it was crap. And then I went away to do it for myself, just for the pleasure of doing it, with my eyes closed. I don't care about the outside world anymore. I want to try this. Ah, yes, I can connect that to this and da 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 da. And then when I open up my eyes, I've got a crowd of people and a huge round of applause afterwards.
Amazing. It reminds me of the author Dan Millman. He was saying, I think he was giving a talk, and he was very nervous. And when he went in, he wasn't sure how people would he would be received. He wrote the book, Way of the Peaceful Warrior. But
Mm.
everyone's chatting and talking and interacting and not really because they weren't really sure about who he was. And he was like, "What do I do?" And this voice in his head just said, "Just start doing Tai Chi." So he while everyone sat and chatting, he completely went into the flow, moving. And he said it took like literally a minute, 2 minutes, and everybody started to calm down. And everybody stopped talking. And then they just started become completely engaged in him moving.
Yeah,
And he said like he completed the form and then he was like, "Oh, there you are." Now I'll
yeah.
begin my talk. And it was like everyone was like, "Oh wow." That idea of because he
That's
was
the idea of the calm.
in his own calm, he was in a more calm state than anybody else in the room. People gravitated towards that.
That's
Uh,
the thing, and that spreads, and that's also a superpower,
mhm.
right? You talk about like physical superpower, like the physical strength, being able to throw people around and whatnot, right? But being able to calm down, not just yourself, but a crowd of people by being calm yourself.
Yeah.
We do this. We do this in the sheep world all the time. I told you this when I was in Ireland, but just for your listeners, right? The thing I learned about sheep and people, which are uh, it's the
I just had this idea of sheeples, but anyway, sorry.
yeah, it's kind of in a way it's relevant.
Go on.
Right? In any group of sheep, there is always one that's the most neurotic. There's always one that's at the most stress, which is the same with people, right? If you can calm down the one that's the most stressed, it moves from moment to moment, but you keep calming down. You keep putting out these fires with calm. It calms the group, right? Same with any group of people. There's always someone that's the most uncomfortable, right? You learn to calm that discomfort, and then that calm spreads, but it spreads out, but it comes back as well. But it has to come from here, and it's an interesting thing to watch when, like the story you just said about the guy doing the Tai Chi.
Yeah.
When I was spinning my poi with my eyes closed, it was calm, and people are drawn to that calm. And yeah, I think the world needs more of that at the minute because we're living in a very strange time.
We are indeed. So I want to thank you for your time, Gary. It's been fantastic. If there's
Thank
any
you very much, my friend. Yes.
brilliant, I'm really looking forward to seeing you like in a very short space of time. We're in March, middle of April. You'll be here in middle of May. So,
Yeah.
are there any
Yeah.
messages, any parting information, anything that we need to share with the audience to make them more aware of, or anything you want to just say?
You're more powerful than you realize, and you've got everything you need. You are enough. You have what you need, and there's I wish I'd been doing this. I wish I'd started this earlier in my life, but I didn't. So let's get to it. You've only got so many. You've only got this one lifetime.
Yeah.
Start making it count. And this is also a lot like the forms, right? You can do a form empty. You
Yeah.
can go through movements and it can be completely empty,
Yeah.
or you can fill it up with some substance.
Yeah.
And we all have a lot more substance than we realize.
Awesome.
Let it out. Let it out.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for that. So what we'll do is we'll post details below for Shou Gong, the organization. I know you're the Netherlands representative. And then I'll leave links to the workshop coming up in May. It's a 2-day extravaganza, Master Yap and Master Wang.
Yeah.
We're going to do an early bird. So Lyndon said, get the early bird, let's get it in, get people on board, learning the technology. I call it spiritual technology.
I call it tech as well.
Yeah, get to learn that, and hopefully we have a bit of fun. And well, we always have a bit.
That's it. That's a given. That's a given.
Yeah, this is not stuffiness. This is real life technology for your body.
You are the technology.
You are the technology. Yeah, exactly. So thank you.